An Aryan brother is without a care. He walks where the weak and heartless won't dare. And if by chance he should stumble or lose control, his brothers are there to help reach his goal. For a worthy brother, no need is too great. He need not ask, fulfillment's his fate. For an Aryan brother, death holds no fear. Vengeance will be his, through his brothers still here. For the brotherhood means just what it implies. A brother's a brother till that brother dies. And if he is loyal and never lost faith, in each brother's heart will always be a place. So a brother I am and will always be, even after my life is taken away from me. I'll lie down content, knowing I stood, head held high, walking proud in the brotherhood.
People that are older and know what time it is know it's just business.
Yeah. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is your host, Gabe Morales. We've been covering Aryan Brotherhood members over almost 6 decades. I'll resume with the B last names and start off with one of the biggest ABs ever, Tyler D. Bingham Jr., also known as TDB, also known as the Hulk. He was out of Fresno, California, and got in trouble as a young man. In 1965, TDB managed the Iron World Gym in Sacramento and got in trouble pulling robberies. In 1968, when he would have been about 21 years old. He was housed at San Quentin in 1970, and I believe may have killed Harvey Fortner with assistance of Aryan Brotherhood member Dickie Bird Murray, which earned him his bones into the Brotherhood. In 1971, TDB and Aryan Brotherhood member Blinky Williamson were accused of killing a black inmate at San Quentin. He then was transferred to Folsom Prison, where in 1972, he and Aryan Brotherhood member Bulldog Ladd with the killing of Nasty Jack Bultroder when he had B number 17741. He was housed at Folsom Prison for many years, as well as the California Medical Facility in 1978. I understand that he was involved in the homicide of an inmate Jesse Purge at Folsom in 1979, and I believe had paroled from CDC by 1983, and robbed a bank of approximately $9,000 in Stockton, California. He continued committing armed robberies and bank robberies and soon was caught. He was sent to the BOP in Marion, but paroled after about 2 years. He soon got popped on a bank robbery in 1984 and was shipped to Marion in 1985 under BOP number 03325-091, and soon was designated as being a federal commission member. In 1985, I understand that TDB and an AB associate stabbed outlaw motorcycle club member Gary Evil Sizer. Evil Sizer was stabbed 11 times, but survived his attack. What is interesting to me is that the outlaws at that time were known enemies of the Hells Angels, who sometimes had an alliance with the Aryan Brotherhood. And he was very instrumental in declaring the war on blacks. Bingham is still locked up in the BOP, being housed at the EDX Max in Colorado, and is currently 76 years old. There was a Jesse Blevins, who I show had ties to Salinas as well as Turlock. Understand he was an Aryan Brotherhood associate under D number 16574 and was housed at High Desert State Prison in the year 2000. I show he paroled in 2001 but was involved in a bank robbery in 2002 and given BOP number 99651-111. I show he was close to Turtle Harper and was housed at Lompoc in the year 2003. But I show was released from custody by the year 2006. There's a Thomas Charles Bolin, who I believe may have been out of Sacramento. He was an Aryan Brotherhood member under C as in Charles, 48936, and explains a little bit about why he and others joined the Aryan Brotherhood.
At the time, the AB served a much-needed purpose in California state prisons. There was a lot of racial upheaval, and the AB was designed and structured to more or less protect and defend the weaker whites. It started with a purpose and reason and did make sense for the prison system at that time. We controlled everything. Who lived where? Who died and who lived? We controlled the entire prison system.
I show that Thomas Bolin is currently housed at the California Institution for Men in Chino. There is Duke Bolton. Yes, that actually was his first name, Duke. I show that he was an Aryan Brotherhood member under CDC number E as in Edward, 13667. I show he was housed at Pelican Bay, but I believe had parole by the year 2009. There was a Donald Weasel Box out of Fresno. I show he was at least an AB associate in the late 1970s under B number 84733 after he was convicted of a robbery charge. I show that he had an escape charge in 1978 and was returned to custody, but had parole by 1981. I then show that he was sent to the feds under BOP number 52793-097, and he was housed there from 1984 to 1990. I then understand that he was released from the feds, then got popped on a dope charge, and was returned to CDC under H number, as in Henry, 10809. I show he was housed at Wasco State Prison in the year 2004. I then show that he was returned to federal custody and was housed at Victorville in 2006, but had been released from the BOP by the summer of 2014. He may have had a sister named Judith Box, who was the girlfriend of longtime AB shot caller Philip Wildman Fortman. Judith Box was employed with the California Tax Franchise Board as a program technician, and she was able to access computer records of government employees, including that of corrections officers who the AB had targeted for retaliation. You see, a longtime AB member named Art Rufo, who was the bodyguard for Wendell Blue Norris, was wounded by Officer David Pitts at the B1 facility exercise yard in June of 1987. It is said that Pitts was shot at while he was riding his pickup truck in West Sacramento. But I remember at the time, other people said that he himself may have shot out that window, and nothing was ever proven to tie the ABs to it. However, it was proven that Box had obtained the home address of at least one corrections officer and attempted to gain access to the records of another. There was Patrick Boomer Brady, who was out of Costa Mesa, which is a city in Orange County. He was an NLR member who helped get support from the ABs to act as their subordinates and put in work for them out on the general population yards in CDC.
So we got a memo one day stating, gaffle them all, lock them all up. And I mean, we swept the yards simultaneously. We just basically got with the yards, had the yards locked down. These guys didn't know what was going on. They just thought maybe it was going to be a big search. And I gave them names, all these names. I mean, our ASEG was overflowed just with NLRs. We had actually a full building of 200 plus an overflow we had to use. And so with the officers on the yard, we hooked them all up. At the same time, we got them all in there, and they didn't know what hit them. And then I walked into ADSEG afterward. Actually, a couple guys says, "So you got us, JR." And I said, "Documents." That's all I said. And I walked out. I wanted to make sure that these officers in ADSEG knew what we had. So I said, listen, they are the little brothers of the Aryan Brotherhood. They are under the umbrella, big time, all that.
Brady had J number 89194. For his accomplishments, he was granted status into the Aryan Brotherhood and was charged in the 2019 RICO case. According to court documents, between the years of 2011 and 2016, Aryan Brotherhood members had engaged in a variety of racketeering activity, including murders and conspiracy to murder. According to a plea agreement signed on July 28, 2018, Brady murdered an inmate at High Desert State Prison on behalf of the ABs. Brady admitted he committed that murder because the victim had been falsely claiming to be an AB member and had run up a significant drug debt at the previous prison where he was incarcerated, both serious violations of AB policy and codes of conduct. There was Dale Desperado Breches out of San Diego. I showed that he entered CDC in late 1979 with C number 10395. He soon became affiliated with the Aryan Brotherhood after he committed a homicide in late 1979. He was housed at Folsom Prison in the early to mid 1980s and then was moved to Tehachapi SHU in 1987. After Pelican Bay SHU was opened, he was moved there and was found to have multiple shanks in his possession. Breches was named on the AB Council and was celled up with notorious former Washington State inmate and Aryan Brotherhood hitman Cornfed Schneider. Both of these individuals were accomplished artists, in particular Breches, and they both decided to start up a dog breeding business with Presa Canarios, which are huge dogs, damn near the size of a small horse, and known to be bred as fighting dogs and can be trained to be very vicious. Since Breches and Schneider were locked up in prison, they were not physically able to care for the dogs. So Schneider's attorneys, Robert Noel and Marjorie Knoller, who were husband and wife who shared an apartment building in San Francisco, took care of the dogs in their apartment. Meanwhile, one of their neighbors, Diana Alexis Whipple, who was an American lacrosse player and college coach, was attacked by the two-dog duo named Bane and Hera, often called the Dogs of War. And during this attack, they literally tore her body apart. Both Noller and Noel went on trial for that incident, which drew international attention. I show that Dale Bretches is currently housed at Salinas Valley State Prison. There was Wayne Bridgewater, aka Captain, aka Tank, who, as I stated in the introduction to the Aryan Brotherhood video, was from Washington State, Federal Way to be exact, which is a city just southwest of Seattle. I show that he was popped on a dope case in 1970 and was popped for multiple robberies in 1973, but had parole by 1977. He immediately returned to committing robberies and was popped in 1978, where he sent to the BOP under number 20220-146 and was housed at McNeil Island, where he was caught with a shank and suspect in several shankings. I show that he was housed at Lompoc in 1986 and at Marion in 1988. As stated previously, he and fellow Washington State convict Kenny Akuka were both schooled by George Hart, as seen in this picture here. Bridgewater was very much involved in the assault on the D.C. blacks in 1997 at Lewisburg, as discussed in the last episode, which also involved AB enforcer Alan Benton. Benton ended up turning informant, and Wayne Bridgewater was found guilty in the RICO case and is currently housed at the ADX in Florence, Colorado, where he's doing life and is 71 years old. There was a Joe, aka Joe Viking Brimage, out of Bakersfield. I show he was involved with the ABs in the early 1970s at San Quentin under A number 76106. I show he paroled in 1971, but then returned to custody in the 1980s with D number 93181. And I show was housed at Tehachapi in 1988 and 1991. There was Aryan Brotherhood member Jesse Brunn, who is incarcerated under CDC number C, as in Charles, 14986. I understand he was housed at San Quentin in 1981, but was transferred to Folsom Prison and did time there from 1982 to 1984. In April of 84, Brunn set fire to a black inmate in the shower area at Folsom. The victims suffered burns over 25% of his body. Of course, the blacks at the prison were extremely angry, and they put a hit out on Brunn, who had to be shipped out of state to Oregon DOC. I show that Jesse Brunn was returned from Oregon DOC to the California Department of Corrections on September 18, 2003, and I understand that he died in CDC custody in the year 2017. There was Edward Eddie Bunker, who was out of LA. He was a very close AB associate, but not a member, and he was also extremely close Mexican Mafia shot caller Joe Morgan. And in fact, Bunker describes in his book, The Education of the Felon, how he and Morgan used to play handball together at Folsom Prison. He was also very close to early AB members Dennis Canos and Paul Allen. Very early in his life, he describes how, as still a young man, he assaulted Captain Lewis Red Nelson, who later on became San Quentin warden. Bunker landed in the queue by the 1950s, and by the early 1960s, he ran a profitable drug racket between Los Angeles and San Francisco that often involved fellow convicts, including Aryan Brotherhood members. He was also close friends with fellow convict and later actor Danny Trejo, who he helped get into Hollywood. Bunker was eventually arrested when police put a tracking device on his car and followed him to a Beverly Hills bank heist. Police actually expected Bunker to lead them to his supplier, but were very surprised to see the even bigger crime. Bunker anticipated a 20-year sentence, but only got 5 years, and was sent to McNeil Island in Washington State, where, as I've stated previously several times already, many Aryan Brotherhood members were housed. Eventually, Bunker started getting into the movie script business and also had a cameo role in numerous movies such as The Running Man, Tango and Cash, and Reservoir Dogs, where he plays Mr. Blue, a movie directed by a then very young director named Quentin Tarantino. Bunker died in July of 2005. Travis Burhoff was also indicted on that 2019 RICO case for a conspiracy to commit murder in the furtherance to aid racketeering. Burhoff was a P9 member who later became an Aryan Brotherhood member. I show he was housed at Kern Valley State Prison but currently shows not in custody for the last couple of years. I believe he may be out to court at a county jail because he didn't show being in the BOP yet either. There was a Gary Lurch Burkett, who I show was a Hells Angel, but also a Aryan Brotherhood associate in 1974, under CDC number A as an Alpha 71573. He may have been related to Everett Burkett, who was sent to the BOP under number 00618-097 and killed Robert Hogan at USP Marion on April 15, 1980. Evidently, Hogan had been bragging about the rape and murder of BOP contract dietitian staff member Janet Hyland at USP Atlanta in November 1979. And the Aryan Brotherhood had implemented a policy that no AB member was to harm any female staff employee, who they often considered as easy targets to compromise in order to have them introduce contraband. It is noted in BOP reports that Everett Burkett was not an Aryan Brotherhood member, even though maybe he did it to try to earn his rock, to gain entrance into the prison gang. There was Edward A.K. McCool Burnett, who was a very early Aryan Brotherhood member from Long Beach, California, who had CDC number A as an Alpha 77730. He ended up being returned to custody under B numbers in Bravo 34087. He was involved in a homicide in Seal Beach, Orange County, California in 1977 with AB shot caller New York Crane. Burnett was also involved in the robbery of Wayne and Barbara Golan's Luxury World Jewelers in Orange County, but that case was vacated in 2021. And I understand that Eddie Burnett was at least at one time on the California Commission or Council. Burnett was held for many years at Pelican Bay SHU. Burnett then was finally freed from custody and has given talks for California families against solitary confinement. There was Robert Francis Butler, a.k.a. Bobby, was out of Bellflower, California, and was committing robberies even back in the late 1950s. In March of 1965, he escaped from an honor camp in Northern California. While he was on the run, he committed at least one other robbery in Santa Clara County and was finally captured in Modesto, California, probably on his way to commit more. In December of 1965, his security level was raised and he was sent behind the walls at San Quentin. He was one of the earliest Aryan Brotherhood members with A numbers in Alpha 58551. He ended up being one of the main shot callers for the Aryan Brotherhood, but it is interesting to me that he actually had a high regard for Black family founder George Jackson as being a very stand-up guy. The Black family was named the Black Guerrilla family after Jackson's death. And usually the Aryan Brotherhood and the BGF are enemies, but occasionally there have been exceptions. While there in December 1965, he was accused of killing Salvador Martinez on San Quentin's lower yard, and he was charged in late 1966 for that crime. But I'm unsure of the verdict. A lot of times in corrections, the prosecutors won't even pick up a case, or it ends up being a decision of not guilty, not because they didn't do it, just because, to be honest, the reports are often very shoddy compared to police reports. I show his classification level was lowered and he was housed at CRC in 1972, but yet he escaped again when he's 32 years old. He committed more robberies in LA County since he was a hardcore dope fiend and was finally caught and in the mid-1970s debriefed to the California Gang Task Force, as seen in this interview here.
Believe me, I've sat on the yard in the adjustment centers, sat around in groups for hours at a time and listened to and participated in the conversations, and it was almost 100% about killing, kill this person, kill that person. Joker Horn, he was killed by members of the Aryan Brotherhood. Jack Batchelder was killed by members of the Aryan Brotherhood. Dale G, killed by the Aryan Brotherhood.
Do they ever kill outside the prison?
Yes, they do. It's hard for me to describe B-section. 24 hours a day, man. It's just a madhouse. People shouting and screaming and burning and flooding, cutting themselves and throwing urine, filth off the tiers at one another and at the guards. And what's the guard going to do to you? The guard isn't going to kill you. About all they're going to do is, if they identify the thrower, is place them in an isolation cell, which isn't any worse than the cell they're already in. Like they'd throw bottles and filth at Jesus Christ as we walk down the tier.
What's going to happen to you?
I mean, if they have anything to say about it, well, I'll be killed.
I have part of his interview here, and I believe I still have the entire video, but I haven't figured out how to get some of the old videos that were given to me by the founder of the Prison Gang Task Force, Robert Mocha Morrell, from old reel-to-reel tapes and old VCRs onto digital data. Hopefully one day I can do that, because I have some very good stuff, including Alfie Sosa's confession to multiple murders that was recorded down in Mexico. But if you want to know more information about Bobby Butler, Police and Fire recently did a very good video on that, about him. And they've done a good job on other prison gang members as well. So my hat's off to you guys. Bobby ended up going into the witness protection program and disappearing from the radar. And so that concludes part 2 of the B last names of Aryan Brotherhood members over the past 6 decades or so. I hope you enjoyed this episode and continue watching the rest of this series. Don't forget my book, The History of the Aryan Brotherhood. It includes a lot more information than what is just in this video. And it has lots of pictures as well as information on other Aryan prison gangs across the United States. Don't forget to give thanks to God for everything you have and continue to be blessed. For now, this is Gabe Morales signing off. Gangsters, cops, and politicians. An Aryan brother is without a care. He walks where the weak and heartless won't dare. And if by chance he should stumble or lose control, his brothers are there to help reach his goal. For a worthy brother, no need is too great. He need not ask, fulfillment's his fate. For an Aryan brother, death holds no fear. Vengeance will be his, through his brothers still here. For the brotherhood means just what it implies. A brother's a brother till that brother dies. And if he is loyal and never lost faith, in each brother's heart will always be a place. So a brother I am, and will always be, even after my life is taken away from me. I'll lie down content, knowing I stood, head held high, walking proud in the brotherhood.
People that are older know what time it is, man. It's just business.
Yeah.